to keep right.
Hey friends, it's Friday, September 3, 2021. Welcome back to Prepare to Go There, the most overlooked and underrated coaching conversation on the internet. That's my opinion, but I'm just convinced that the future deserves our focus today. So we better get after it, right? I want to welcome you back to the Future Frontier, and trying something new. Got some little headphones in here, so I can't hear that much, but hopefully it'll be something to try, test, improve. So, little improvements here and there go a long way. Let's start with the why. We'll dive right into Future Friday. Yes, I love Future Fridays. You know how Chip Gaines and Fixer Upper, how he's always like demo day. He's like so into it. I want to start like a whole movement for Future Fridays. People just looking forward to Future Friday, not because it's the day that they escape their lives, their work, their relationships, and they just kind of blow it off on the weekend, but because like we're living on mission and we're super passionate about taking field trips to the future and making every day better than the one before. So I am convinced that leadership is going to matter more in the future, not less. And so we need to be working on ourselves today. So when we show up ready. Most people don't know how to lead others into a better future, though, because they don't know how to lead themselves. And it is easier said than done. There's a amazing leader, Craig Rochelle, and he's doing kind of like a few talks on self-leadership right now. And I'm kind of like, yes, we got there. We're there. We've been talking about this for a while now. And so I love how this phrase is kind of picking up momentum, and I'm just super encouraged that more people are talking about this, because the key to, leading others, leading through others well, is leading yourself first. Like, if you don't know where you're going, how are you leading anyone there? And I think some people mean well, but they overemphasize the parts of their life that are highly visible based on their title or their position or their reputation. And they kind of overlook the parts of their life that don't get seen and don't get credit and don't get attention. Like, you are human, you are nuanced, you are like masterfully designed. And so you need to be growing in a lot of different areas of your life. I wouldn't say all at the same time, but somehow integratively. And so there's a lot of joy in just going on the journey, and it's amazing. I wrote this down somewhere. It's amazing how much you can grow and how much you can accomplish when you don't need people's attention to do it. So, hey, welcome, Harvest family. Thank you for jumping on. Go ahead, guys, and start dropping in your topics, your questions, whatever's on your mind. Today is Future Friday, so we're here for the future friends. Prepare to Go There is a call to action to help friends and leaders alike go on that daily journey of preparation. Preparation is unnoticed, but it is necessary. And a lot of people talk about the outcomes, but they don't talk about that journey. It's like, how did we just skip over like a few decades of character development and relationship building and contentment and focus and integrity with intentionality. Like, how do we skip all of that? Shouldn't someone be talking about this more? And so I hope I'm not the spokesperson for this. I hope I'm just a catalyst that just encourage people to say, talk about where you are, talk about what you're dreaming about. Let's stay focused on the future practically, not like daydream or escape or fantasize the future, but to, take ownership and realize that today is the gift. I mean, I was just reading that today, which is so good. Hebrews 3 talks about, the Holy Spirit speaking today. Don't harden your heart, but listen to what he's saying today. And I think, we can all grow in staying focused practically today. And then, once we have that clarity and we're operating with that multifaceted focus, which is making progress on multiple fronts of your life, not just one narrow view of success, then you got to figure out how to lead yourself there. Because even if you can figure out how to articulate it to other people, the truth is that they have their own future to focus on. They have their own lane. They have their own passion projects. And so why would you delegate all of that execution on other people if it's not in alignment with what they have? And so you got to lead yourself, right? You got to figure out how to lead yourself tactically day by day. Like, do you know tactically what is the course of action? What would be the steps? How would you explain this or train someone else in this? And that's when you're ready. All right. So if this resonates with you, again, I want to invite you to the Future Friends. It's the email community. You can click the link below, get the free fail-proof planning guide, name and email. You can instantly get going with that guide so you can get started and get better as you go. I want to remind you that there is a blog that is fresh. It's all about what we're talking about this week. It was how to figure out your future on the way there. And the emphasis was daily planning. So go check out that blog as well, peterbirchfield.com. It's an easy read. Jump in as well. Free fail-proof planning guide for you. All right, quote, and then we will get into your questions here. It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near him. I just think that's so funny. This is a quote from The Hobbit, and basically he's like, hey, if you know there's a dragon, might as well factor it into your planning. I think this is so humorous and just practical and good. People are like, well, I'm not really much of a planner. It's like, yeah, but if you already know about something, why don't you just factor it in? It's like, well, I just go with the flow. Yeah, but if you know about something, why not try to get intentional and proactive about it? And I just want to give a lot of love, a lot of encouragement. If you don't feel like a planner, maybe you don't feel like that's your strong suit, or you're not wired for that, or maybe you're like, I'm just more creative or more free-spirited. You got to drop all of those labels. Like, for real. We're talking about you. We're talking about your life. We're talking about having intentionality and purpose and making the most of every day. Like, this was when I really got a big aha moment. One of the most important days of my life, literally, probably the second most important was my wedding day. Standing in front of my wife, Sarah Joy, making vows worth keeping for the rest of our lives. And I can promise you that day was planned. Like, we thought about that for a while. We were looking forward to it. We put intentionality into it. Everything was like, it was speaking about the meaning of what kind of marriage we wanted to have, and, what kind of future we wanted to create together. I mean, there was a lot of layers of value being communicated from, the music and the decor and even just the arrangement. I mean, where we went, our venue, it was all kind of like speaking to us, and we wanted it to say something about us to others. I mean, there was layers of value and beauty and thought that went into it. So you're telling me that the most important moments get the planning and the attention and the intentionality. So why not put that into the rest of your life? It's just a case study that proves we are planners. We do want things to be successful and work out. And here's another example, a case study, just because there's no content today. Uh, literally, see, that's the last slide. There's no content here. So we'll just kind of riff off of whatever y'all want to do. But the other example is on the totally other extreme, and it's DDay. We had the privilege of blessing my father-in-law with a big milestone trip. He had a milestone birthday, and he had always wanted to go honor the troops over where D-Day happened in France. And I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that he really didn't think he was going to be able to go. And it was one of the highest, blessings for us. It was such a treat, honestly, for us to say, like, I had kind of known about it for a while. I had been planning this and kind of figuring out how we could make this happen. And we surprised him on Father's Day. We said, we're going. He was like, you got to be kidding me. We're like, no, for real, we're going. We're going to go to France, and we're going to hang out in Paris together. And then we're going to, it was a lifetime experience, once in a lifetime experience. And then we went and saw where D-Day happened. It was crazy. It was a very moving experience. I was getting all kinds of insights and just downloads everywhere. But, basically after going on that guided tour, hearing the stories, seeing the landmarks that were happening there, it was pretty clear to the Allied forces that they were not going to get another opportunity like Operation Overlord. They had done another kind of offensive maneuver and advance. They were trying to get on at a different point, like 2 years before. 2 years before they tried it, and it was horrible. It didn't work. That in and of itself should be a round of Prepare to Go there. Just comparing and contrasting the first run 2 years before, which was horrible, tragic, and then, honestly, pretty tragic, like what's been going on recently in Afghanistan. I mean, the incompetence alone is tragic, and that's putting it lightly. It is super sad. So all I'm saying is, I'm not trying to take sides. My point is to encourage you, like, preparation matters. Thinking things through matter. Things like making things work matter. And if you're just going to like be kind of negligent, careless, just kind of expecting someone else to do stuff, you're not willing to take ownership. You're not willing. If anyone's going to take ownership for the success of your day or your month or your year, wouldn't it be you? Like, why wouldn't it be you? Why wouldn't you be the one who figures out how to make things work in your context? You should be that person. You can do this. And I think a lot of people feel helpless. They literally have this kind of these limiting beliefs, and they have this programming that's like, I can't do that. And we unfortunately are unconsciously codependent on so many things. And I really feel, I mean, at a deeper level, we need to get set free. And there is so much freedom that's available. But what I want to focus on is the practical application of living and leading in that direction. I want to focus on, hey, now you are free. What are you going to do with that freedom? Hey, you are empowered. You can lead yourself. You can make a difference. You can go the distance. Now let's get it in action. Let's go take action. And a lot of friends, a lot of leaders that I know, they have a lot of vision, but they don't know how to translate that into the execution, into the practicals. Me, first in line. And so this is a daily conversation for me. This is something that I enjoy. And just to kind of finish the thought, at DDay, they were pretty clear that they wouldn't have another opportunity other than, Operation Overlord, and they had to make it work. And it was still a fight, and things were still, going contrary to their plans. I mean, it was so crazy, but they had done so much in advance. In fact, I think somebody can fact check this, but from the guided tour that we were on, our tour guide said there were 5 staff members working on logistics kind of behind the scenes for every one soldier that was going on the front lines. So think about that, 5 to 1. If the soldier represents the execution, and then you have 5 to 1, the logistical staff representing the strategy element. That's massive. That's so important. And it shows care. It shows intentionality. It shows so much. Okay. So let's get into what y'all want to talk about. If you have something you want to drop in the chat, go ahead and do that as well. But in the meantime, I will start with some questions here. Absolutely. Thank you, Joshua. So good. Let me read that question. How would you protect yourself from crossing the line of overplanning? Is that line close by? Every day. Overthinking. I wrote a blog about overthinking versus thinking things through. And I think what I'm attempting here is not to go to an extreme, but to come from the other extreme and bring it back into balance and say that there are practical steps that we can take empowered by the Spirit, and just to appreciate that we live in space and time, that we're doing everyday life. And what I would say to protect yourself from over planning, there's a few things. One is, I think everyone gets to steward their story. And so you're keeping track of your story. And the more you track your story, the more you learn what worked, what didn't work, where you were over planning, where you were under planning. And planning, I love the quote, plans are nothing, planning is everything. Planning to me is that, leaning forward, staying engaged in the days and the moments that we have, not just kind of sitting back either idly or sitting back with hesitancy and fear, but to say, no, I'm really going to do that. So now how would I do that? I really feel passionate about that. So how would I take steps towards that? Or I feel a conviction, a calling to, follow through. Now, how do we actually do that? And so many people, as you know, they're wasting time waiting on things or waiting on people, when in reality, they're probably waiting on you. And another thing that this kind of helps with is, if you have found yourself codependent, to other people or systems or even limiting beliefs, you're spending a lot of time, you're spinning your wheels a lot. And so when you say, no, I don't have to live in fear, I'm not in fear of man, I'm gonna, take risks. And now how would I move forward with that? So I hope that kind of helps. But the way you protect yourself is through awareness, through kind of seeing the macro trajectory of where you are. And then, having community, which is the obvious one. I don't want to patronize your experience. And I think just for me, seeing things on paper, kind of externalize what's been going on in my head and my heart. And if I see the same things kind of coming up again and again and again, either frustrations or stressors, and then I can kind of have a paper trail and say, I need to like admit this. I need to take this somewhere, take it to the Lord in prayer, get wisdom on it, whatever. And vice versa. When you see signs of progress, you can stay encouraged. Like for me, when I was, I go through the weekly planning and I bring up things again and again. It's like, hey, I have put the same project down for like 2 months. What's going on? And so visualizing it and externalizing it instead of just kind of keeping it in your head, that is something to kind of factor in as well. But I want to give that some more thought, if that's cool. And I do, because I think that's a big thing for a lot of us, is we want to be intentional, but we don't want to overthink it. And we don't want to overplan it either, because there's absolutely just kind of a go for it attitude that you have to have at the end of the day. So all in all, I'm saying live with intentionality and integrity. And when you do, you're going to be taking action steps that count. And when you live with that kind of accountability, then you're like, all right, how would I do this? And that's when you start, putting things into motion. All right, let's see what else. There was one question that was kind of humorous to me. It was on working out when you're hurting. And that got me. I'm not trying to have the answers for everything. I just thought that was amazing. And I sympathize with it. And I don't know that answer. I'm thankful for my wife. We work out together. And so I would just say you need to find someone who can encourage you or equip you, because what it sounds like is that's a mindset, that's a mindset of what happens when you're hurting and what you tell yourself. Are you justifying, skipping out or whatever? And then are you going to power through it somehow? But for me personally, just in the season of life that we're in, we just moved in to our first home. We're so thankful for it. And so, Sarah Joy is being unleashed with her creativity. It's going great. And she's got vlogs that she's kind of sharing her journey with it. But our garage, we're thinking we're going to have like some gym equipment. And so for me, the biggest aha moment has been stretching. Like the warm up, the pre-workout is, I was always just like, I don't need it. I'm fine. I want to save time. I'm already kind of dreading this, so I might as well just knock it out and get it done. But man, I have really found the value of pre-work and warming up and kind of making sure that you're up for the challenge. Otherwise you will plateau. You will definitely plateau because you're just doing the same thing over and over, and you're not really maxing out. You're not really growing your carrying capacity. And so that, once again, preparation, right? Whether it's pre-work, whether it's a weekly planning session, whether it's just doing the stretching or the warm up. I mean, this is definitely just kind of the chapter title of my life story right now. So that's super good. There was another question. Let's see here. There was a good question on books and podcasts to check out. I didn't get enough context. So if that is you, or even if you're interested in leveling up, just throw that in. Making plans with other people. I was kind of saying this facetiously, but I stopped trying to do daily planning with other people. Partially because everyone's wired a little different. Everyone wants to hit the ground running with their strengths. So like for me, I want to like hit the ground and go away. Like that's where I want to start. I want to start in that deep workspace so I can pray and process and plan and develop things, and then come out ready to go and then connect with people, engage. And it's kind of my way of like just best foot forward. My wife, Sarah Joy, she's like hitting the ground running, and she's already accomplished 4 things. And I'm sure some of y'all can relate to that. So everyone has different strengths, and that's why you have to really map that out for yourself. The thing that, whether it's a coffee conversation, coffee and calendar, that works really well, or some sort of standing meeting with your team, is you don't want to have gaps or overlaps in your scheduling, in your productivity. So what I mean by that is gap is, I thought, like for instance, we had a project we had to do and it was due on a certain day. Well, I basically thought Sarah Joy had covered a step, and then she was expecting me to cover the step. No big deal, right? It was a small project, but it works for this example. That's a gap. That's a gap in understanding, whatever. So here I am. I'm super content. I literally could have done it. I had the margin to do it. I just didn't have it on my radar at the time. And then vice versa. She was going and going and going, kind of expecting me to follow up on that. So I'm gladly getting better, growing every day. No big deal. I can say, forgive me. And so we just kept going and laughed about it. But that's a gap. And having a sync, having an intentional time, not when it's, on fire, not when you have to go run people down and all this stuff, that creates a lot of unnecessary complexity or confusion. Overlap is where you're double working. You're working on the weekend graphics, for a project, and they did the same thing. And how do we miss that? That's pretty basic, but it just means you need time to sync up and communicate. And depending on how often you're working, you just need to work that out. So I'm down with weekly. I think it'd be far, far better to have one effective conversation about scheduling and projects and all that, than to keep having all of these little text messages and emails and updates and things. Just don't do that. And then what's even better than that is to have some monthly buy-in. Get some buy-in like a month out. And so really, the further out you go, the more leverage you have to lead yourself and, to collaborate well with other people. The catch is that when you're way far out, you see big stuff, but not small stuff. So as you get closer and closer to those moments, those projects, those expectations, all the little stuff starts coming up, and you didn't factor that in. You didn't know how to factor it in because you didn't see it at the time. And so then it really is all about, and this is kind of my language I'm using right now, empowerment and alignment. Empowerment and alignment. We need both. And so kind of building that in with deep work and wide work really helps. Those phrases come from a book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. And he really emphasized the importance of, undistracted time to focus on meaningful work that really requires more of you than just the easy, kind of shallow, mindless work that most people get by with. And I loved that concept, but I felt like we needed something for all the team stuff we're doing too, not just deep work, but what about that other stuff? And so I called that wide work. So we're going deep when we're in our alone zone, but we're going wide and we're making ourselves available to other people when we're, working with our teams. And so deep work is anything that requires concentration, whereas wide work is anything that requires collaboration. And so what happens is you get this conflict of scheduling, or just this conflict of timing, where you may be deep, but there are other people in your family or your team, and they're all wide. You need concentration, they need collaboration, and nobody knows your plan. They don't know your schedule. They don't know that you have made a commitment on Tuesdays and Thursdays to take time away, to go focus, to work on projects or to take field trips to the future. They don't know that. So all they know is that they have something that feels urgent, and they come running. They're looking for you like, hey, where's this? What's that? And I mean, it is important to them, but it's kind of an inconvenience to you. And so you just kind of swallow and you gulp and go with it. But wouldn't it be so much better if you could just sync up and communicate, hey, these are high level things we know about, but also I'm not just going to talk about my projects with you, but I'm going to talk about my process with you too. I want you to know my process, so that way we are both working deep at the same time, preferably, and we're both working wide at the same time, preferably. So I'm not going to interrupt you when you're in deep work, and I'll be available when it's time to have meetings or when it's time to collaborate on bigger projects. Like literally, if you're just trying to move furniture and it takes more than one person to lift the heavy stuff, like you got to schedule that. So, and I think most teams have a very relational dynamic anyway. So either you're working in the same space or you can call and they come, and that's fun. That's good. But I'm serious. Like when something matters, you put the thought, you put the preparation, you put the intentionality into, making it as good as you can. And so all that to say, I love the kind of these off topic conversations, and I'm going to land the plane here after the last question. But daily planning with other people, why? Just go do great stuff that day. Just go make that day great. And then, if you've planned on some sort of, project sync or standing meeting, weekly review, preview kind of thing, or if you've scheduled a monthly thing, I think those are kind of the two things you could drop in. And, daily stuff has its own visibility. Weekly stuff has its own visibility. Monthly stuff has its own visibility. So make sure that the things you're talking about match the scope that you're in. Like, I know that your monthly meeting is happening on a Monday, but please don't be talking about what's going on Monday at the monthly meeting. Like, be talking about the things that happened last month and next month. Be talking about the 3 to 6 month direction that you're leading in already, so you can kind of reconnect with your why and make sure that you're still on track. And then when you're in the weekly rhythm, don't be bringing up this is what I get in trouble for. Let's say you're having a weekly sync and you want to like hard load it with vision for 2022. You're like, "Hey, I just got I just got a great idea. I want to talk about 2022." It's like, "Yeah, but this is just the next 7 days. We won't have enough time or energy to process all of that. Can we plan a time to even plan that?" And I've found, this is just me kind of riffing here, but I'm convinced that, teamwork is a New Testament practice. And when we share, we have the mind of Christ. We are doing this together. That's why I don't believe that it has to be so rigid or legalistic or forced. I'm just saying, let's have values that shape, some intentionality. But anyways, you know, we have to learn how to carry the presence together, the Lord's presence together, or the Lord's projects, the Lord's purposes together. If He's given us something, how are we going to communicate and coordinate and collaborate on that? And so I'm big on rhythms. I'm really big on rhythms, and I don't have the time to kind of have some itemized thing and reinvent the wheel every day and then call people and say, okay, what are you working on today? What are you working on today? I like the way Michael Hyatt explained it was you communicate with your direct reports every day, which, people you're working with, and you just say, like, how are you feeling? What are you working on today? How can I help? I mean, super simple stuff. And then getting those rhythms down. So as you can see, I need content because otherwise I'll go in a lot of different directions. But let me try to land the plane here. I really appreciate y'all jumping in. Are you a bullet journaler? No, I'm not a bullet journaler. I believe in it. The system's cool. Basically the idea is to focus. I'm down for focus. If you need just that extra reinforcement, then just going offline and staying analog will help you. But for a lot of us, our work is digital already, so that's not gonna translate. So I would use a more hybrid system of analog and digital. I think there are strengths on both sides. I think it's good to work on your process, on your workflow. You want your productivity to feel more like a real workflow, not a workout. And don't do the heavy lifting every day. Do the heavy lifting up front. Think intentionally and proactively about making decisions worth repeating, and then practice them, test them, and level up. And don't make it like some dead ritual. Instead, like, improve it and let it breathe and let it expand from there. So for me, like I talked about in these conversations this week, I want to start on paper. I want to get away. I want to get offline, off limits, whatever I'm thinking about. Like tomorrow, I'm super excited about our leadership mastermind. And so I'm putting kind of some finishing touches on that. Well, that started far, far away from any technology because I don't know. I want to think it out. And even if it's not perfect or polished, I actually need a timestamp. I need a very clear point of reference for the original idea, the original download, because it will go through iterations, it will go through changes. And as I'm developing the content, or even as I'm communicating with other people and they pitch in their ideas, there will be some times where I'm kind of like, man, I wonder if I'm still on track. So it's good for me to have that paper trail and to say, oh, yeah, this was the original. I mean, yeah, it was just a seed, but it's taken me back to some of the original inspiration that can reinforce my ongoing motivation. And then once I, either brain drain and then mind map and then kind of outline, then it's going to get fleshed out on Evernote. And then what I want to do with Evernote is get ahead. I've already made discoveries, made decisions on paper. Then I want to keep it somewhere where I can have access to it. So like for me, that's Evernote. And I want to try to make templates and batch and get that content ahead. Even if it's just a guide for me, that counts. But sometimes I can actually have the actual, content or work, kind of the legwork built out. So hopefully when I'm in the moment, it's more like I've been meal prepping and now I can just kind of pull out all this stuff and then do the last steps, the last round in the moment, either when I'm communicating or whether we're building something together with team members. So that's the hybrid approach. And, as far as the calendar stuff goes, the calendar, I'm not looking at my calendar every day. The calendar pretty much helps me with the weekly planning session. And I want to put that into the weekly planning session that I'm doing in Evernote. So that way, when I'm showing up, I'm not going to 4 places. I'm going to 1. I'm going to Evernote. Now, that's the note-taking app I use, but I just want to go to one place and have things laid out. Hopefully, it's laid out chronologically. So I can literally just have checkpoints and checklists. And then it's not, super itemized like some Olympic routine that I have to nail, but it's more just like space. I've just made the space. I have big space and I know what I need to do in those times. There's a time for everything. So just kind of think, just kind of have some intentionality there. All right, I will land the plane with that. I'm going to keep working on some content for that mastermind. And for me, there are so many projects, so many different fronts to hit that I really do need to get away to stay grounded and take inventory in all those directions, to look north, south, east, west, and say, okay, am I giving the appropriate response to this, that, and the other? Otherwise, I will drift towards whatever feels like success in that season. If it's success at home, I'll just really focus hard on that. Or if it's success personally, I'll just really focus on that. Or if it's success with work or with our team or our church community, I'll just kind of keep going in that direction. But you do need multifaceted focus. You do need to be growing in other parts of your life, not just the parts that are highly visible. And so getting away kind of helps you almost stop that, endless, and it'll help you to kind of course correct and stop your focus. You got to learn how to do those maneuvers. How do you start your focus? How do you steer your focus? How do you stop your focus? How do you restart it? Those are skill sets that you can actually identify and work on and get better at. So, all right, that is the irony of this whole game, right? Is that I'm just sharing and flowing, and I'm not quite sure how it's coming off on the other end. So I really appreciate your patience either here or whenever you're watching. And stay encouraged. You guys are going places, but you got to prepare to go there. And so just keep doing the work. Keep doing the work. I will be back on Monday with another round of Prepare to Go There. We will be, I think, getting closer to the 60s. That is crazy. Like the 60th episode of Prepare to Go There. And we're just getting started. Got a really fun topic coming up again. Please help me subscribe, hit the like, share this with your friends, jump in the email community. I'll be sending out the email right after this for future friends. So I'll be bundling all this up into the roundup and then going from there. And I am attempting to make these daily coaching things shorter. And my own preparation has really helped to do that. So, all right, remember, you're going places. So prepare to go there.